In a vacuum, without context, would it make someone a jerk if they refuse to invite their own sister to their wedding because they're selfish? Well, we're gonna get some context, just a bit, but first, am I the jerk? I made my sculpture wrong, so I walked out of class. I'm primarily a textile artist. I'm technically getting a degree in sculpture, but only because my university merged the degree programs. I already hold a degree in ceramic sculpture and have been teaching on and off for the past 6 years. My instructor for this class is a grad student. The class is teaching wood and metalworking. Hopefully this is enough context. I'm also trans and autistic. Our first assignment is to make a reliquary for an object out of wood. That's the entire prompt. No constraints given other than it must be made out of the provided, compressed sawdust wood panel. Since this isn't my first rodeo, I'm pushing myself to test the boundaries of sculpture and how I and the viewer interact with it. My immediate thought was creating a sculpture with the intent on burning it and the object it holds. A phoenix works perfectly. I knew I couldn't burn it in class, but I was given the okay to present it, then record the burning and upload it onto our class discussion board. I created the prototype over the weekend out of cardboard. Because the wood cannot be carved, I was going to layer pieces in a similar way to the cardboard and have the wings attached by hinges. The phoenix would hold my old passport in its beak. Burning the sculpture represents me leaving my old life behind in multiple ways through me being trans, attempting to move countries, and my autistic voice changing and developing. I present my prototype, get good feedback, and get to work sketching onto the wooden panel. My instructor then comes up and implies I'm doing the assignment incorrectly and will get a lowered grade. He questioned why it wasn't 3D. It is. The wood is layered. Why a passport instead of something from my childhood and where the baby was? Like, how would I have a new one come out of the ashes? The phoenix is representative of my old self. I am the new. I don't understand how he couldn't see this. We spent a good 5 minutes on just that point. He finally leaves me so I can continue my work, but most of the class is over at that point. Jump to today. I'm finalizing my sketch and marking cuts. He comes back and starts questioning again why it's a relief and not a sculpture. A relief is a sculpture, and at this point, I'm frustrated and done answering questions. Again, we were not given any constraints or instructions other than reliquary. I defend my work again, and then we just stare at each other. He wouldn't leave, so I gathered my stuff and left the class, dropping it a few minutes after. I'm probably in the wrong, but this isn't my first time making a sculpture. I know what I want to say, and I don't want to compromise that by changing things simply for a grade. I'm planning on transferring to a weaving-specific school anyways, so it's not like this will ruin my degree either. Maybe it's an autistic misunderstanding, but if you wanted me to make a specific sculpture, then tell me that or let me use different materials. I mean, I'm no expert on this, but I do feel like the whole point of expressing yourself through art is to do just that and not limit yourself to these constraints. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say. Timely Egg6827 replied, "Everybody sucks here. It's a sad truth, but the purpose of a class is not to test the boundaries of sculpture, but to show you understand and can demonstrate the principles that are taught. A relief is a form of sculpture, but it isn't demonstrating that you can create a model out of wood. You've basically made the wood into layers of cloth and built a 3D representation from sheets. But this should have been raised at the prototype stage. Was the instructor who gave the feedback, and was it clear at that stage what you were intending to do? It sounds like he was expecting something like a shaped box. As to the content of the relics, I do agree he's being narrow-minded there. I think you're right in transferring to a course where the demands match closer what you want to do, but I can't fault the instructor either because he has to mark on module content. Also, hey everybody, my name is Brendan, and if you guys enjoy these Am I the Jerk videos, it'd be amazing if you liked the video, or commented down below if you're listening to our podcast. Now then, our next story is, am I the jerk for not accepting to pay full price for my coworkers' food delivery meals? My coworkers are big into food delivery services, and it's a common conversation in our office. I've tried a trial order before, and it wasn't for me. The meals were really expensive compared to regular meal prepping. 2 days ago, one of my coworkers was complaining she messed up her delivery window and now has too many meals, so a few of them would have to be thrown away. I told her if she was going to throw them away, I could buy them off her. Today, she brought 2 chicken meals in and told me they would need to be cooked today because they were expiring soon. I asked her how much she wanted for them, and she said $80, full price. I was awkwardly quiet about it for a minute and said I'll take one of them. She didn't really say anything back, but I could tell she was annoyed. She works in the connecting office, so I haven't had a chance to talk about it with her, but charging full price after having a conversation about them expiring soon was really unexpected. Should I pay the price, though? We never agreed on a price ahead of time, and there seems to have been a lot of miscommunication. So if I'm in the wrong, I would like to know before talking to her. Edit. Thanks for the responses, guys. I talked to her and told her that I appreciated her bringing the food, but it was more expensive than I expected, and I was going to pass. She didn't really have much to say back. She wasn't upset, but changed the subject. I did check the servings before she took them, though, and they were 2 servings each. Definitely not $80. Yeah, I don't think you're the jerk for backing out of that. That's obscenely overpriced, even for fresh meat, let alone soon-to-be expired meat. Maleficent Web 6034 replied, "It was insane to even offering to pay for them. She had expiring meals that she wasn't going to eat, so if she wanted to do good, she could give them away, or she could throw them out. Expecting any amount of money is absurd, and expecting full price would have had me never speaking to her outside of what's required for work again. She isn't the type of acquaintance I would want in my life. Not the jerk." Our next story is, am I the jerk for lashing out at my sister for not prioritizing my medical emergency? I was hospitalized today after losing consciousness and fainting onto the floor twice today. When I asked my sister, my emergency contact, and she's aware of that, if she could bring me necessities that I need for my stay, she said, quote, "Maybe Sunday or Monday." When it's Thursday, I lashed out because this is serious and I can't even rely on my immediate family members. I've never felt so alone after calling the ambulance alone, getting admitted alone, doing everything alone. P.S. My sister and I are on good terms. It's not like we have bad blood or anything. Edit. Since a lot of you are asking, the only reason she gave was I wasn't sure about my schedule, and I completely understand that since she's still attending university, she must have a busy schedule, but it's not like she couldn't show up at any of the visit slots. There's 2 per day. Also, she's not living that far away and doesn't have other responsibilities, as some of you suggested. Yeah, this is unfortunate. I mean, you would like to think that in the case of a serious medical emergency, your family members, particularly ones that you don't have beef with, would have your back. So, OP, not the jerk, that is definitely disappointing on your behalf. Useless Profession replied, "Info, is your sister chilling nearby or is she working on an oil rig in Alaska?" And Firm Stranger 9283 replied, OP commented on another post how she was the golden child with narcissistic, abusive parents, and that her siblings never stood up for themselves, etc., etc. So I'm pretty sure the sister just doesn't care much for OP anymore. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to acknowledge my mom's $300 Visa payment and making her cry? So, backstory. About 10 years ago, my mom, now 69, had racked up a massive amount of credit card debt. She was unemployed, facing eviction, and in a really bad spot. At the time, I couldn't afford to help pay her bills, so instead, I moved her into my house with me, my husband, and our 2 kids. We sold most of her stuff to help pay things down. For 6 years, she lived with us rent-free. We covered her groceries, utilities, and basically everything. Every cent she got from the government went straight toward her debt. It wasn't easy, but eventually she paid it all off. Once she was debt-free, I helped her get onto social assistance and into low-income senior housing. She's been on her own for about 3 years now. I still have access to her accounts, mostly just to keep an eye on things and make sure she stays stable. Recently, I got a notification that her visa was over the limit. This card was only supposed to be for emergencies, but when I looked at her statement, it was full of stuff like mobile games, restaurants, and random purchases. Nothing necessary. I called her to talk about it. I told her I couldn't help her anymore and that she'd have to figure it out on her own. To be clear, she never asked me for money. She said she'd handle it. But she got really upset when I refused to acknowledge that she had made a $300 payment on the card. She started crying, saying she's trying, and I still shut her down because I was frustrated and didn't want to give her credit for backsliding again. Now I feel conflicted. On one hand, I've already sacrificed so much for years to help her, and I can't keep bailing her out. On the other hand, she's 69. She cried, and I do feel like maybe I was too harsh in that moment by not giving her any acknowledgement for at least paying something. So, am I the jerk for refusing to acknowledge her payment and making her cry? No, not the jerk. I think that you're justified in your frustrations, OP, but also, I can kind of get where mom's coming from here as well. Just because you're paying off debt doesn't mean that you should just always have to be straight and narrow, locked in on that, and not be able to spend a little bit of money and, enjoy your waning life a little bit more. So, not the jerk, but I get both sides. Caldera Fox replied, not the jerk. I've got a mom in a similar situation. All my life, she favored my sister over myself and my brother. My sister has completely looted my mom's house of anything valuable and either sold it off or given it to her own kids. Mom can't stay off the internet and has her bank account cleared out more than once by scammers. She came to me for help and I gave it. For a bit, but the arrogance and hubris of her is just astonishing. I finally just cut her off and said to get help from her favorite child, who can't stand to be in the same room with her. I cut contact completely. Sometimes it's all you can do for your sanity. Our next story is, am I the jerk for hiding a stuffed animal? I, 15-year-old female, will start out by saying that I have very strict parents. I'm expected to keep a certain GPA. My parents have specific expectations for how I look, etc., etc. One of their rules is that they hate things they deem childish, which involves owning toys past, the age of 10. Well, I've admittedly ignored this rule and still keep my favorite stuffed animal. I lost basically every other toy I owned, but I hid this one and they don't even know I still had it. My younger brother, 8-year-old male, ended up finding it while looking for money in my room and decided to blackmail me, and said if I gave him money, he wouldn't tell. I did, and he ended up telling them anyway. Long story short, I got grounded and they took it. They made me watch them trash it, and they dumped gross stuff over it to stop me from getting tempted to get it. I asked if I could at least get the money my brother took from me back, and they said no, and I don't deserve it. I ended up digging through the trash anyways to get it back, and my friend right now is trying to wash it for me while I find a new hiding spot. Anyway, I feel bad for breaking the rule, but feel like it's a dumb rule anyway. My other brother, 12-year-old male, is on my side because our younger brother has done the same stuff to him, but for different reasons, and he thinks the rule is stupid. I still feel bad for making my parents mad, though. Am I the jerk? No, of course you're not the jerk. Let me get this straight. You got grounded for having a stuffed animal beyond the age of 10, and then they not only threw it away, but made you watch. Your parents are absolutely horrible people. Tow Truck 73 replied, not the jerk, but your parents are first-class jerks. Childish things. I don't know what kind of sticks they have jammed up their arses. This isn't just cruel, it's illogical. I'm in my 50s, still watch animated shows, and build 1:87 scale models, which your parents no doubt would consider childish. When you move out, don't invite them over. If they don't respect your boundaries, go no contact. By all means, stay in touch with family members that respect you, but cutting your parents off may be the only way to rid yourself of their toxic thinking. If I were in your shoes, as soon as you move out, my room would become a stuffed animal sanctuary with a decent lock on the door. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not sharing my specific diagnosis? Tiny bit of background. I'm physically disabled. I walk with a slight limp, use crutches and braces many days, have some substantial scars, although often covered by my clothes, etc. Most days a stranger could see that I'm different, but may not really know what's so different about me. A couple semesters ago, I was taking a required class in college and discovered it was basically woodshop class, which is not easy when I'm using crutches and such. I got to know the professor pretty well, and he was amazingly accommodating and ended up making a lot of the changes to the shop to accommodate me. He reached out to me a while ago and explained that he was teaching a class that focused on designing for clients and wondered if I was willing to come in and speak about my experiences being disabled and then serve as the client. I'm a huge fan of advocating through sharing stories, so I agreed pretty quickly. I went in and spoke about my day-to-day experiences, the tiny bits of inaccessibility on campus that add up for me, the way I'm treated by others, etc. I was focusing on how my disability affects my life rather than what my disabilities are, so notably, I didn't give my diagnoses. Then I met with each group of students and talked about what they could design to help me. The point was for them to notice a challenge and offer a solution. I was meeting with one group and one of the students asked me what my diagnosis was. I said, well, I have a few, but I prefer not to share them as that's a personal medical information. The student kind of rolled his eyes and said something along the lines of, well, how am I supposed to design something for you if I don't know what's wrong with you? This obviously took me back and frankly stung a little bit. Is it wrong for me to share about my experiences without sharing my diagnoses? I can see how my words can mean less if people don't know the name of what's wrong with me, but it felt like this was supposed to be more about my experiences than the disabilities themselves. I'm feeling torn. P.S. If it matters, I generally don't share diagnoses because I've had a couple bad experiences with people Googling the diagnosis and thinking they have a full understanding of me and my life, and then start making assumptions about me. You're not the jerk. I mean, it's your business. You can share as much or as little of that as you want, and I guess as long as some of the symptoms are out there in the ethos, these students should have all the information they need to come up with hypothetical ways to help you. So no, not the jerk. AdFinal6253 replied, "Not the jerk, engineer here, and all I need to know is what your challenges are in order to be able to help in that sort of class. Yeah, I want to make sure I don't offer a solution that doesn't work because of something you didn't mention, but that's part of the iterative design process. Ideally, your prof would have covered basic ethics regarding working with folks with disabilities, but they might not have thought of it either. If the student had backed off on your 'I'm not going to share,' I'd give a not the jerk, but they didn't." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for cleaning the house I was house-sitting?" For context, me, 28-year-old female, and my husband, 31-year-old male, have been together for 9 years in total, and since he was younger, he's been friends, family really, with this older woman named Sharon and her family. He played soccer with her son. A couple of months ago, she asked us to house sit and dog sit for her while she was away on a business trip, and she paid for our flights from Pennsylvania to Arizona. She said that it would be less expensive to have us fly out than pay for a sitter for her dog that needs extra care. It was also a little vacation for us, so I felt kind of bad she was paying for us as well, but I went anyways. While we were there, I had been cleaning the house. This house was not dirty at all, but I did mop, sweep, and clean up random stuff around the house as a gesture, as that's what I was taught was a nice practice. Anyways, she came home and was super offended that I cleaned and that it was disrespectful to her. I said I thought I was being nice and it would be nice to come home and relax. My husband said that she was being unreasonable. Now my husband and her are not talking, and she's talking about me to the rest of the family, and I feel like it's my fault. Am I the jerk? No, you're not the jerk. You cleaned her house, you did something nice, and no, not the jerk." Keystoners replied, "Not the jerk. In other news, are you looking for any more house-sitting gigs?" Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law off for her comment regarding my 5-day-old? My husband's mom called to ask how the baby was doing, and he told her that she was good and was currently taking a nap on him. She was extremely supportive during the entire pregnancy and was even there for the birth, so her calls are welcomed. She responded by saying that it's not good to let her sleep on us. An annoying comment, but whatever. My husband tells her that there's nothing wrong with it, and we love letting her sleep on us. Then she proceeded to say, 'Don't build bad habits with my baby.' That one got to me. Ignoring the 'my baby,' I said, 'You can't build habits with a newborn.' In a sarcastically cheerful tone, she says, 'Yes, you can. I've raised 3 children.' I matched her tone and said, 'Actually, no, you can't. It's science.' Then she hung up. After that, she sends me a very long message about how she's never been able to tell how I feel about her and how she hopes one day we can be close, which was news to me because I felt closer with her than any of my own family. She also said she feels like I don't want to hear anything she has to say when it comes to the baby, and she wants to be able to give advice and make suggestions. This was referencing the phone call as well as a couple other things she had suggested previously. I told her we wouldn't be doing those things because we already looked into it and decided to do something else. I responded by telling her I had no idea where all this was coming from, as I felt we already had a close relationship, and I apologized for if I ever acted in a way to make her think differently. I also said that while I didn't want to invalidate her experience as a mother, I didn't really want advice unless I asked for it. I said I'm glad what she did worked for her, but all babies are different, and I'm constantly doing research and making decisions based on that. I finished off by saying that if I want advice, that I'll absolutely come to her, and I want her to be a huge part of our daughter's life. She then said that invalidating her experience as a mother was exactly what I was doing, and she was sad that I was being so closed off. Our relationship has been rocky ever since, and sometimes I wonder if I should have just kept my mouth shut and just smiled and nodded instead. So, am I the jerk? Once again, no, not the jerk. I mean, I think all moms are amazing that try and make an effort with their kids, but there is no hard, fast, one-size-fits-all rule. So her telling her how to parent your child is out of pocket, And you're absolutely right to feel the way that you did, not the jerk. Elemental Surprise replied, not the jerk. Here's what I told my own mother-in-law. It must have been so hard to be a new parent when the only options were advice from others or going to the library and hoping for good information. Then it's finally your turn to be the advice giver, and the internet takes it away. But I have the absolute privilege to have 30 more years of research and easy access to all of it whenever I need. Nobody is saying you were a bad parent, and you absolutely did the best with what you had. I'll also be doing the best with what I have, and I'm so privileged for the additional research and accessible knowledge. I'm happy to ask whenever I have questions and tips. Potty training comes to mind, but what I need most right now is a non-judgmental listening ear. Our next story is, am I the jerk for accidentally tricking my friend? I, 19-year-old male, love world building. I would consider it to be my main hobby. I somehow find a way to connect most things I find in real life to my fictional setting, and will jot down a note on a napkin or something before transferring it to one of my world building binders when I'm alone. I don't talk about my fictional world with pretty much anybody. I think it's a little embarrassing. I have multiple binders for the same setting, for different aspects of the world. Think one for food, geography, religion, etc. It's a little overkill, but it helps me organize my thoughts. I invited over my friend, 22-year-old female, let's call her A, for a movie night with me, my sister, 18-year-old female, and my parents. She's very much not into the D&D fantasy stuff and doesn't know anything about it. We ended up going up to my room to play video games, and at some point, I went downstairs to go to the bathroom or something. When I came back upstairs, she was on her phone, so I assumed she'd been doing that the whole time. She goes home, I think nothing of it. The next day at around noon, she starts blowing up my phone, calling me a jerk for making her look stupid. I, understandably confused, asked what she means, and she admits she read one of my binders and asked her roommate to pick up one of the peppers she'd read about, because it sounded good. She said she wanted to make Fool's Bell Poppers because she and her roommate both love spicy food. Fool's Bell is a fictional type of pepper I created that looks like an overripe bell pepper, but it's actually a little more spicy than a serrano pepper, so around 25K Scoville. Her roommate had laughed in her face after looking up the type of pepper and said she, quote, got her good. A says I'm a jerk because to her, I knew she would snoop through my stuff, so I put something fake to make her look dumb to her roommate. I need to emphasize this binder cannot be more clearly labeled as fiction. There are no IRL things in this binder, not standing alone at least, and the font literally says world building, type. On top of this, she's one of my only IRL friends, and I love her a lot. I have no idea why she would assume I would do this maliciously. Am I the jerk? No, you're not the jerk simply because, you kind of lost me at the line, I assumed that you knew that I would go snooping through your book. What even is that? No, not the jerk. Continue world building and stimulating your imagination. Rapace12 replied, not the jerk. She read your personal things without permission and then tried to blame you for it? Let me ask you something. Is she really one of your friends? Our next story is, am I the jerk for not wanting my niece and nephew in my baby's room? My husband's brother and his kids, 2.5-year-old female and 5.5-year-old male, come over pretty often. I try to make our house fun and comfortable for them, and we have a backyard play area, a living room play area, and even the basement you can run around in. But every time they're here, they end up in my 7-month-old daughter's room. They'll pull everything off her shelves and make a total mess. What bothers me even more is that their dad goes in there with them, sits down, and just lets it happen. They don't clean up afterward either, so I'm left to do it. I feel like bedrooms are private spaces you only enter if invited, especially a baby's room. I already clean up after them in the shared areas, but it really bothers me that they're also going upstairs into her room and wrecking it. I don't want to be a jerk about it, but I also don't want my daughter's room constantly trashed. Am I the jerk if I tell them they're not allowed in her room? No, you're not a jerk. like you said, there's some kind of private sanctity of someone's bedroom, and I agree. Shouldn't go in unless invited, especially if, you're going to end up trashing it. So no, not the jerk. Fearless Ed 1685 replied, not the jerk. Tell them flat out they're not allowed in that room. Lock the door. Tell them that if they're not going to clean up after their kids, they need to stop coming over. You are not their maid. Ideally, your husband should be doing this, but you don't mention him or his stand. If he won't talk to them and make them behave when they visit, refuse to have them visit. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not inviting my sister to my wedding because she always makes everything about herself? So I, 29-year-old female, am getting married next fall. I'm super excited, and planning has been stressful but fun. I love hosting and party planning, so having a huge, well-planned wedding means a lot to me. The issue is my sister, 31-year-old female. For as long as I can remember, she's had a really awful habit of hijacking big events. For example, at my college graduation, she announced her engagement during the dinner. She dated the guy for 2 months and they broke up a week after my graduation. At my fiance's birthday last year, she revealed she was pregnant, later miscarried, which was awful, but the timing of the announcement was still really inappropriate. The final straw was at my parents' anniversary party, when she got really drunk and started laughing at my parents' speech when the speech was clearly not at a laughing part. Her apology was half-assed at best, and definitely in that popular girl, oops, sorry way, if that makes sense. This is part of the problem. A lot of what she does is hard to explain. It's all in the mannerisms and tone, but I know what she's doing. I feel it in my soul. I love her, but it's become a pattern. Every milestone turns into her stage. When it came to my wedding, I just couldn't handle the idea of something I've waited for my whole life for being overshadowed, especially since hosting and party planning means so much to me. My fiancé agrees. After a lot of guilt and back and forth, I decided not to invite her. I told her privately, and she lost it. She called me selfish, said I was tearing the family apart, and that she'd never forgive me. Here's the thing, I know she won't, but I don't know if I care. My parents are furious at me and say I'm being vindictive and childish, but again, I don't know if I care. I feel awful, but I also feel relieved, like this is the only way to protect the day. Part of me knows I'm being a jerk, but am I being too big of a jerk? Please give your opinions. I need to know if I'm being ridiculous. I'll just say this, it's your wedding, it's your special day. You can invite or plan it out however you want. What I will add to that, though, is like, even though your sister's not going to be there, you're still going to be thinking about it. And so that emotion is going to loom large regardless. But hey, if you feel this is what's best, have your wedding without her. Susan, 66207, replied, Security, security, security. Can you tell I think you should hire security to make sure she does not sneak into the ceremony or reception? All right, everybody, that's all the time we got for today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and comment down below. And if you want to check out any of our other videos, click the video on the right. I got nothing else for you. I will see you all next time.